The strange part wasn't that Audrey Lane sat on my lap. The bar was packed shoulder to shoulder, the kind of Friday night where everyone smelled like rain, beer, and somebody else's cologne. Our group had claimed one tiny table near the jukebox, and there were 8 of us trying to pretend 4 chairs was enough. So when Audrey came back from the restroom, saw her chair had been stolen by a guy in a denim jacket who looked way too proud of himself and said, "Move your knees, Mason." I did what any loyal best friend would do. I moved my knees. She sat down like it was the most normal thing in the world. The strange part came 3 minutes later, when the denim jacket guy finally stood up and left. Her chair was empty again. Audrey looked right at it. Then she settled a little more comfortably against me and said, would you look at that?" And she didn't move. That was the moment my life became divided into 2 parts. Before Audrey stayed on my lap and after. My name is Mason Reed. I was 25 years old working as an assistant project manager for a small construction company in Columbus, pretending I had a 5-year plan because my mother slept better when I used phrases like career trajectory. In reality, most of my life fit into a 1-bedroom apartment, a half-paid-off truck, and a group chat full of people who communicated mainly through memes and bad decisions. Audrey was the best decision in that group chat. She was 24, a graphic designer with a laugh that always arrived half a second before she meant it to, like joy kept beating her to the door. She had brown hair cut just below her shoulders, sharp eyes, and a way of wearing simple clothes like she had personally negotiated with the universe to make them look better on her. That night, she wore a soft blue sweater, black jeans, and silver hoops that kept brushing her neck when she turned her head. I noticed that. I had been trying very hard not to notice things like that. Audrey and I had been best friends for almost 2 years. We met when my company hired her firm to redo our website, and I accidentally sent her a spreadsheet named Final Use This One, seriously.xlsx. She replied, "This file name sounds like a man begging for mercy." And I knew immediately I wanted her in my life. Not romantically. At least that's what I told myself. Back then, she had a boyfriend, and I had recently ended a relationship with a woman who once told me I was emotionally furnished but badly lit. I still didn't know exactly what that meant, but it had made me cautious about letting anyone tour the property again. So Audrey became safe. Coffee runs, movie nights, grocery store arguments about cereal. Emergency calls when her sink leaked or when my smoke alarm decided toast was an act of war. We had that easy closeness people either understood immediately or misunderstood completely. Our friends misunderstood it constantly. "Just so we're clear," my buddy Nick said from across the bar table that night, grinning over his beer, "this is still platonic, right?" Audrey, sitting on my lap with one arm looped lightly around my shoulders for balance, didn't even blink. "Completely," she said. Her hip shifted against my thigh. I nearly forgot how lungs worked. "Very platonic," I added, because apparently I wanted to make everything worse. Nick's girlfriend Heather snorted. "That was the least convincing thing I've heard all week. And I work in customer service." Audrey leaned back just enough to look at me. "You okay there, Reed?" Nobody called me Reed except her. When she said it, it always sounded like she knew a version of me I hadn't introduced to anyone else. "Fine," I said. "You're sitting very still." "I'm trying not to cause a workplace injury." "You don't work here." "My knees do." She laughed, and I felt it more than heard it. That was the problem with having Audrey on my lap. She wasn't just sitting there, she was warm and real and close enough that I could see the tiny freckle near her left ear, close enough that when she reached for her drink, her hair brushed my jaw and my entire nervous system filed a formal complaint. I told myself to be normal. I had been telling myself that around her for months. It had started slowly. A look held too long while we washed dishes after a friend's giving dinner. Her falling asleep with her head on my shoulder during a movie and me not moving for 47 minutes because I didn't want to wake her. The night she cried in my truck after breaking up with her boyfriend for good, then apologized for being a mess, and I wanted to tell her she was the least messy thing in my life. Instead, I handed her napkins and said, "Your mascara is doing performance art." She laughed through tears. That was us. Humor over the soft spots. Banter where honesty should have been. At the bar, the rain hit the front windows in silver streaks, and the jukebox played something old and soulful under the noise. Our friends were arguing about whether to order nachos or fries. A table near the pool cues erupted because someone scratched on the 8 ball. The whole room felt alive and loud. But my world had narrowed to the weight of Audrey against me. "You really can move back to the chair," I said quietly, tilting my head toward the empty seat. She glanced at it again. "I know. You're not trapped. I know that too." Her fingers were resting near the collar of my shirt, not gripping, just there. Like a question she hadn't decided to ask. I tried to joke my way out of the heat rising in my chest. "Is this some kind of protest? Are you taking a stand against furniture? Maybe I've discovered this seat has better lumbar support. My lap is not medically certified. It's doing its best." I smiled despite myself. Then she turned a little, and for one dangerous second we were almost face to face. The joking faded. Her eyes dropped to my mouth, then back up so quickly I would have missed it if I hadn't been already memorizing everything. That look did something to me. It knocked loose every excuse I had stacked carefully between us. Audrey saw it happen. I know she did, because her smile softened in a way that wasn't teasing anymore. "Mason," she said. "Just my name. Not Reed." That was worse. "Yeah?" She opened her mouth, then looked past me toward our friends. Nick and Heather were still distracted, but not enough. Heather was watching us over the rim of her glass with the expression of a woman witnessing a slow-motion car crash she had predicted in writing. Audrey cleared her throat and reached for my beer instead. "Can I steal a sip?" "You hate pale ale?" "I'm evolving." "You once said it tasted like a pine cone filed a lawsuit." She took a sip, made a face, and handed it back. "I stand by that." I laughed, and she smiled like she'd needed to make me laugh. Then my phone buzzed on the table. I ignored it. Audrey didn't. Her eyes flicked down, and because the screen was facing up, we both saw the text preview from my sister, Lauren. "Lauren, Mom wants to know if Audrey is coming to Sunday dinner again. Also, she said, tell him to stop being a coward," but I'm not supposed to repeat that. Audrey went completely still. My heart dropped through the floorboards. I grabbed the phone and flipped it over, too late to save any dignity I had left. Around us, nobody had noticed. The bar kept roaring. Glasses clinked. Someone laughed too loudly near the dartboard. But between Audrey and me, everything went quiet. She didn't climb off my lap. She didn't make a joke. She just looked at me close enough that I could feel her breath when she said, "Your mom thinks you're being a coward?" I swallowed. She has a lot of opinions. About me? I should have lied. I should have laughed it off, blamed my sister, blamed the pale ale, blamed the fact that mothers develop strange hobbies after their children move out. But Audrey's fingers were still resting against my shirt, and her eyes weren't letting me hide behind anything. So I said, "Sometimes?" Her voice dropped softer. "And are you?" Before I could answer, the empty chair scraped against the floor. A man stepped into the space beside our table, tall, clean-cut, wearing a gray coat and an expression I recognized from photos Audrey had deleted but not forgotten. Her ex-boyfriend Ryan looked at Audrey sitting on my lap. Then he looked at me. And he said, "Seriously, Audrey? Him?" There are moments in life when a man discovers what kind of person he really is. For example, when his best friend is on his lap, her ex-boyfriend appears out of nowhere, and everyone at the table goes quiet enough to hear the ice shift in someone's drink. I discovered I was the kind of person whose first instinct was to say something stupid. Thankfully, Audrey beat me to it. "Yes," she said. One word. Calm. Clear. Ryan blinked. "What?" Audrey didn't move off my lap. If anything, she sat taller, her shoulder brushing my chest. "You asked him?" "The answer is yes." The warmth that went through me was ridiculous, dangerous, entirely too much for a crowded bar where my friends were pretending not to lean in. Ryan's jaw tightened. "I came over to say hi." "No, you didn't," Audrey said. "You came over to make a face," Nick murmured. It was a very specific face. Heather kicked him under the table. Ryan ignored them. His eyes stayed on Audrey. "Can we talk for a minute?" Audrey's hand, still near my collar, curled slightly into the fabric. I felt that tiny grip all the way down to my ribs. I wanted to answer for her. I wanted to tell him no, absolutely not. Go find another bar and another hobby. But Audrey was not a woman who needed me to be a wall in front of her. She needed me to be beside her. So I kept my mouth shut and let her choose. She glanced back at me just briefly, not asking permission, checking whether I was there. I was. No, she told Ryan, we can't. His face shifted like he hadn't expected the word to land that firmly. Audrey, I'm having a good night, she said. I'm with my friends. Ryan looked at me again. And him. Audrey smiled, but it wasn't her warm smile. It had edges. Especially him. The table made a collective noise. Not loud exactly. More like 6 people trying not to explode. My brain, meanwhile, was somewhere up near the ceiling fan. Especially him. Ryan stared at her for one more second, then laughed without humor. Wow, okay, good luck with that. Thanks, Audrey said. I'm feeling optimistic. He left after that, which was wise of him, because Heather had picked up a fork with the air of a woman considering options. The second he was gone, everyone at the table started talking at once. That was beautiful. I hated his coat. Who wears wool to intimidate people? Are we ordering fries or processing feelings? Audrey slid off my lap so suddenly I almost reached for her. I didn't. That was important. I think it was. She had just chosen where to sit and what to say, and I wasn't going to turn around and act like her body was a thing I had rights to, but I missed her weight immediately. She stood beside the table, cheeks pink, eyes bright. I'm going to get air. I'll come with you, I said before I could overthink it. Her gaze found mine. This time, she didn't make a joke. Okay. Outside, the rain had thinned to mist. The street shone black under the bar lights, cars hissing past, the October air cool enough to make Audrey fold her arms around herself. Music pulsed behind the door each time someone went in or out, but out there, under the narrow awning, the world felt smaller. Private. I took off my jacket and offered it to her. She looked at it. If I accept this, will you claim it's because you're chivalrous and not because you run warm like a faulty appliance? I can be 2 things. You contain multitudes, mostly body heat and anxiety. That made her laugh, which loosened something in my chest. She slipped into my jacket. The sleeves swallowed her hands. I tried not to stare and failed completely. What? She asked. Nothing. Mason. I leaned back against the brick wall. You look good in my jacket. The words came out low and honest, without any protective layer of sarcasm. Audrey's expression changed. The mist gathered in her hair, tiny beads of silver on the brown strands near her temple. She tucked one behind her ear and looked down at the sidewalk. For once, she seemed nervous. You never say things like that. I think them. Her eyes lifted. That was it. The sentence that lit the fuse. The traffic noise faded. The cold went soft around us. Audrey stood 2 feet away wearing my jacket, and I had the unbearable feeling that we had been walking toward this exact patch of wet sidewalk for 2 years. She took a careful breath. What else do you think? I laughed once quietly. Audrey. No. She stepped closer. You don't get to give me one brave sentence and then retreat into adorable emotional construction dust. Adorable? Don't cling to the wrong part. I rubbed a hand over my face, smiling. Because of course she'd do this. Of course Audrey Lane would drag honesty out of me with a joke in one hand and a spotlight in the other. Then I looked at her. Really looked. I think, I said slowly, that when you walk into a room, I notice before anyone says your name. I think I buy the cereal you like even though it tastes like sugared packing peanuts. I think I've been comparing every date I've tried to go on to sitting on my couch with you, arguing about terrible movies. Her lips parted. I kept going before courage could evaporate. And I think when you stayed on my lap tonight, I stopped being able to pretend I only wanted what we already had. Audrey was very still. Panic climbed my throat. If that makes things weird, I'm sorry. I don't want to lose you. Your question inside about being a coward. Yeah, I have been. because being your friend is the best part of my life, and wanting more felt like gambling with the only thing I can't afford to lose. For a second, she didn't speak. Then she reached out and took my hand. Not my sleeve. Not my wrist. My hand. Her fingers slid between mine like they'd done it 100 times before. "You absolute idiot," she whispered. I stared at her. That could mean several things. It means I broke up with Ryan 8 months ago, and half the reason was because I realized the person I wanted to text first was never him. My heart slammed once. It means, she continued, stepping closer, I sat on your lap because I wanted to, and then the chair opened. And I stayed because I wanted you to notice that I wanted to. I noticed. Good. I noticed so hard I may need medical attention. Her smile trembled. Mason. Yeah? I'm scared too. That hit deeper than her teasing. I squeezed her hand. Of me? Of this. She looked between us at our joined hands. Of ruining the place I go when everything else feels too sharp. You're my safe person, but not in a boring way. If something wonderful happens, I want you there. If something awful happens, I want you there. If nothing happens at all, I still want you there. My throat tightened. Behind us, someone opened the bar door, spilling noise onto the sidewalk. We didn't turn. I brushed my thumb across her knuckles. Then maybe we don't ruin it. Maybe we build on it. Audrey's smile returned, soft and startled. That sounded very assistant project manager of you. I can make a spreadsheet. Do not make a spreadsheet for our feelings. Our feelings deserve columns. She laughed and stepped close enough that the front of my shirt brushed my jacket on her body. Then she rose onto her toes and kissed my cheek. Not my mouth. A brief, warm press just beside it, close enough to make every thought I had fall down a flight of stairs. When she lowered herself, her face stayed inches from mine. That was a test, she said. I had forgotten English. Did I pass? I don't know yet. That seems unfair. I'm collecting data, I smiled. For the spreadsheet? Shut up. And then she kissed me for real. It was soft at first, careful, two best friends stepping across a line and feeling it hold beneath them. Her hand tightened around mine and my free hand rose to the side of her face, thumb resting near that tiny freckle by her ear. She made the smallest sound against my mouth. That was when careful became difficult. I kissed her like I'd been saving up almost every swallowed sentence. Every night I'd watched her laugh across my kitchen and wished I could walk over and touch her hair. She kissed me back like she was tired of waiting too. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Audrey rested her forehead against my chest and laughed once, shaky and bright. Well, she said, that's going to complicate movie night. I wrapped my arms around her, slow enough for her to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. She tucked herself closer under my chin. I'm willing to face the complications, I said. Brave man. Terrified man. Me too. We stood there under the awning in the mist, my jacket around her shoulders, her hands at my waist, the old version of us still there but rearranging itself into something warmer. Then the bar door flew open behind us. Nick stuck his head out, eyes wide. Not to interrupt, whatever emotionally repressed Midwestern mating ritual this is, but Heather says if you two don't come back in, she's announcing your engagement to the whole bar. Audrey groaned against my chest. I looked down at her. Ready? She took my hand again, this time in plain view. Especially with you, she said. Walking back into the bar holding Audrey's hand was somehow more intimate than kissing her outside. A kiss could be blamed on weather, adrenaline, pale ale, or the emotional chaos of an ex-boyfriend with a tragic coat. Hand-holding was evidence. Heather saw our linked fingers first. Her mouth fell open in a silent scream, and she slapped Nick's arm 3 times without looking away. Nick winced. Ow, love is violent. Audrey lifted our joined hands. Maha, before anyone gets weird. Everyone got weird immediately. There was cheering. There were whistles. Someone pounded the table. My friend Devin stood like he was giving a toast at a wedding and said, I always knew this day would come. Mostly because Mason looks at Audrey like she invented breakfast. I did invent breakfast, Audrey said. You're welcome. I pulled her empty chair out with my foot. Sit before they start a chant. She glanced at the chair, then at my lap. The whole table froze. My pulse did something humiliating. Audrey smiled sweetly and sat in the chair. Then, under the table, she hooked her ankle around mine. Apparently, I was going to die in installments. For the next hour, nothing and everything changed. We still argued about fries versus nachos. Audrey still stole the lime from my drink because she claimed citrus was a public resource. Nick still told stories too loudly. But every few minutes, Audrey's knee brushed mine, or her fingers found my wrist, or she leaned close to say something only I could hear. Each tiny touch felt like a secret being made public, one nerve ending at a time. At one point, she leaned in and whispered, "You're blushing." "I'm warm." "You said you run warm like a faulty appliance." I was quoting a reputable source. She smiled against the rim of her glass. "For the record, I like it." "My faulty appliance quality?" "That too." Her eyes held mine a beat longer than necessary. I had spent 2 years knowing Audrey's face. I knew her annoyed face, her fake polite face, her "I'm about to win this argument" face. But this was new. This look had softness in it. Want. A little fear. A little dare. I wanted to kiss her again so badly my hands ached. Instead, because we were in public and our friends had the emotional maturity of raccoons, I reached under the table and took her hand. Audrey looked down, then back at me. Her thumb moved over mine. Simple. Quiet. Devastating. When the group finally spilled out onto the sidewalk near midnight, the rain had stopped. The air smelled clean and the city lights glittered in puddles along the curb. "I can drive you home," I said. Audrey arched a brow. "You always drive me home." "Yeah, but now I'm nervous about it." "That is extremely charming and a little concerning." "I'm trying not to assume anything." Her expression softened. "Good." Then she stepped closer, rose on her toes, and kissed the corner of my mouth in front of everyone. Nick made a wounded sound. We suffered for years and now they're just doing this in traffic. Audrey didn't look away from me. "Take me home, Reed." My truck had never felt smaller. Audrey sat in the passenger seat wearing my jacket, her hands tucked into the sleeves. The radio played low, some acoustic song neither of us commented on. Normally she would have been DJ, navigator, and critic of my driving posture within 5 minutes. Tonight she was quiet. I glanced over at a red light. "You okay?" She nodded, then shook her head, then laughed softly. "I don't know. I'm happy, terrified, slightly hungry." "That's your default setting." "I know. It's comforting." The light turned green. A few blocks later she said, "Can we not tell everyone everything right away?" I tightened my hands on the wheel, then made myself loosen them. "Of course. I don't mean hide," she said quickly. "I just mean..." Tonight went from 0 to public spectacle in 12 seconds. I want a little piece of this that's just ours before everyone starts asking what we are. What are we? The question slipped out, before I could stop it. Audrey turned toward me. I kept my eyes on the road, but I felt her looking. "I don't want to be casual with you," she said. My chest went still. She continued, voice careful. "I'm not asking for labels before breakfast, but I need you to know that. If we do this, I'm doing it because it's you. Not because Ryan annoyed me. Not because the bar was crowded. Not because your lap is apparently a 5-star seating option." I laughed, but it came out rough. "I don't want casual either," I said. "I want slow if you need slow. I want careful. I want honest. But not casual." Her hand crossed the console and rested palm up between us. I took it. We drove the rest of the way like that. At her apartment building, I parked under a maple tree, dripping rainwater onto the windshield. Neither of us moved to get out. This was familiar too. We had spent countless nights sitting in my truck outside her place, finishing conversations we could have ended 20 minutes earlier. Back then, the pauses had been comfortable. Now they hummed. Audrey looked at our hands. "Do you want to come up?" Every part of me answered yes so loudly I was surprised the airbags didn't deploy. But her voice had a tremor in it. Not regret. Not exactly fear. More like the edge of a cliff. I brought her knuckles to my mouth and kissed them. I want to, I said. A lot. But maybe tonight I walk you to your door, kiss you goodnight, and go home before I start making decisions with less noble parts of my personality. She stared at me. Then she burst out laughing. Oh my God. What? That was the sweetest and least sexy sentence anyone has ever said. I disagree. Nobility is hot. Not phrased like that. I'm under pressure. She leaned across the console and kissed me. This kiss was slower than the one outside the bar. Less surprise, more choice. Her fingers slid into my hair and mine found her waist, and for a minute the truck cab filled with rain smell, Audrey's vanilla shampoo, and the stunning fact that she wanted me. When she pulled back, her lips were curved. You can walk me to my door, she whispered. Thank you. And kiss me goodnight. Generous. And tomorrow, she added, you can take me on a date. I blinked. Tomorrow. Unless your feelings need a spreadsheet in 3 business days. My feelings are available immediately. Good. I walked her up. At her apartment door, she turned, still wrapped in my jacket, and suddenly the teasing fell away again. This is the part where I usually say something dumb to avoid being sincere, she said. I was looking forward to it. I know, she swallowed, but I don't want to tonight. I stepped closer. Okay. Her fingers found the front of my shirt. I've wanted you for a while, Mason. The hallway light buzzed overhead. Somewhere behind a door, a dog barked once. The entire universe had the nerve to keep existing while Audrey Lane said that to me. I touched her cheek. I've wanted you longer than I'm proud of. Competitive pining? Cute. There she is. She smiled, then pulled me down. The kiss at her door was not careful enough. It was soft at first, then deep enough that she backed into the door and I had to brace one hand beside her head. She made that same small sound again, and I felt it go through me like a match struck in the dark. I pulled away first, forehead resting against hers. If I don't leave now, I said, I'm not leaving gracefully. Her breathing was uneven. I appreciate your commitment to grace. It's mostly panic. I know. She kissed me once more, quick and sweet, then slipped my jacket off and handed it back. I frowned. You can keep it. If I keep it, I'll sleep in it. The image nearly ended me. Audrey's eyes sparkled. And if I tell you that, you'll stand here looking like you just saw heaven and forgot your own address. I know my address. Prove it. Go there. I laughed and stepped back. Tomorrow, date. Tomorrow, she said. I was halfway down the hall when she called softly, Mason? I turned. She stood in her doorway, cheeks pink, smile shy in a way I almost never saw. I'm glad the bar was full, I smiled back. For the record, I said, that chair was empty for a long time. I know. Then she slipped inside, and I walked to my truck feeling like the streetlights had been personally installed to celebrate me. My phone buzzed before I started the engine. Audrey, home safe? Me. I'm still in your parking lot. Audrey, good. Just checking if my date has transportation. Me. Your date owns a reliable truck and unstable emotions. Audrey. Perfect. Pick me up at 10. We're getting pancakes. Me. Is breakfast romantic? Audrey. It is, if you look at me like I invented it. I sat there grinning at my phone like an idiot. Then another text came in. Lauren. Mom moved Sunday dinner to tomorrow brunch. She says bring Audrey. She also says cowards are welcome, but must bring pastries. I looked up at Audrey's lit window. Tomorrow had just become pancakes, a first date, and possibly my entire family watching me try not to combust. I should have been nervous. I was. But when Audrey's next message popped up, all I could do was laugh. Audrey, also, I still have your jacket smell on me. This is either romantic or a medical condition. Me, definitely romantic. Audrey, good night, Reed. Me, good night, Audrey. I slept 3 hours, not because I was anxious, because every time I closed my eyes, my brain replayed Audrey saying, "I've wanted you for a while," and my body reacted like this was urgent breaking news. By 9:45 the next morning, I was outside her building with coffee, a box of pastries, and the fragile confidence of a man who had watched 2 videos on casual first date outfits and learned nothing. Audrey came out wearing a cream sweater, a denim skirt with tights, and my funeral hopes for remaining calm. Her hair was loose, her lips were pink, and she smiled when she saw me in a way that made the whole street seem to tilt. I got out of the truck. "Hi," I said. "Hi." She glanced at the pastry box. "Are those for me or your mother?" "Yes." Strong answer. "You look—" I stopped because beautiful felt too small and anything more dramatic might scare a passing jogger. Audrey stepped closer. "Use your words, Reed. You look like my morning just got unfair." Her smile softened. "Better." Then she kissed me, right there on the sidewalk. Not long, not for show. Just a warm, easy press of her mouth to mine, like we were allowed to do that now. Allowed. I was still smiling when she pulled back. "Pancakes," she said, climbing into the truck. "Before your family eats us alive." "They won't eat you. Your sister once asked if I'd consider marrying you for tax purposes. She believes in efficiency." The diner was crowded, but we got a booth in the corner by the window. For years, Audrey and I had eaten breakfast together like friends. Same coffee order. Same argument over whether hash browns were superior to home fries. Same ritual of her stealing one bite of my food even when she ordered the exact same thing. But this time, when her foot nudged mine under the table, she didn't pretend it was accidental. And this time, I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. Audrey looked at our hands, then up at me. "You're doing that a lot." "Holding your hand?" "Yeah. I have 2 years of backlog." Her thumb brushed my knuckles. "Fair." The waitress poured coffee. Audrey ordered blueberry pancakes. I ordered eggs and toast because my stomach was apparently too full of feelings for syrup. As soon as the waitress left, Audrey leaned forward. "Okay, before your mother's brunch ambush, we should establish rules. For dating? For surviving people who have been waiting for this longer than we have. My mother has a Pinterest board." Audrey froze. "Please tell me you're joking." "I have never been brave enough to verify." She covered her face. "Oh no." I laughed, but underneath it, nerves twisted. "We don't have to go. I can tell Lauren we're busy." Audrey lowered her hands. "Are you asking because you don't want me there?" "No, I want you everywhere." The words came too fast, too honest. Her expression went still in that tender way I was beginning to crave. I cleared my throat. "I mean, not in a creepy way. You can go places without me. I support independent movement." "There's the panic. Reliable as sunrise." She reached across the table and took my other hand too, both of mine trapped between hers, warm and certain. "I want to go," she said. "I'm scared because your family already treats me like I'm one holiday away from being embroidered onto stockings. But I want to be there with you." "With me," I repeated. "Not as your friend who comes to dinner." Her cheeks flushed, but she held my gaze. "As the woman you kissed in your truck after nobly discussing your less noble parts." I groaned. That sentence will haunt me forever. "I hope so." Our food arrived. Audrey immediately stole a bite of my toast. "You have pancakes," I said. "Your toast tastes like emotional progress." By the time we left the diner, my nerves had settled into something lighter. The date didn't feel like a performance, it felt like us, only closer. Her hand in mine as we walked to the truck, her shoulder bumping my arm. The way she tilted her face up for a kiss before I opened her door, like she decided kisses were punctuation now. I was in favor of that grammar. My parents lived 20 minutes away in a brick house with blue shutters and a front porch my dad repainted every spring, while complaining that paint was a scam. When we pulled up, 3 cars were already in the driveway. Audrey looked at them. "How many people are at brunch?" Define people. Mason. My parents, Lauren, her husband, possibly my aunt, maybe my cousin if he smelled free food. She stared at me. I brought pastries, I offered. That box is not big enough to save you. Before I could answer, the front door opened. My mother appeared on the porch in a yellow cardigan, smiling like she'd just personally solved loneliness. Audrey inhaled. Too late. We're seen. I reached for her hand. We can still flee. I know back roads. She looked at my mother, then at me. Then she squeezed my hand. No, we go in. Mom hugged Audrey first. Of course she did. My girl, she said, and Audrey's eyes flicked to mine over Mom's shoulder, wide and bright. My girl. Not subtle, not even adjacent to subtle. Inside, brunch became exactly the circus I expected. Lauren smirked at me over a platter of bacon. My dad asked Audrey about work, then asked me why I looked like a porch light with a short. My aunt said, finally, under her breath, and pretended she hadn't. Audrey handled all of it with grace and murder eyes directed only at me. Halfway through the meal, Lauren lifted her coffee. So, are we allowed to acknowledge last night? No, I said. Yes, Mom said. Audrey choked on orange juice. I put a hand on her back, rubbing once between her shoulders. She leaned subtly into the touch, and that small trust steadied me. We're figuring it out, I said. The table quieted. Audrey looked at me. I hadn't planned to say anything more, but her hand found mine under the table. She wasn't hiding, she was reaching. So I laced our fingers together on top of the table where everyone could see. We're going on dates, I said. On purpose. Lauren's grin went soft. Mom pressed a hand to her chest. Dad nodded like I'd announced a reasonable change in roofing materials. Audrey's eyes shone. On purpose, she echoed. After brunch, while everyone migrated to the living room, Audrey slipped out to the back porch. I found her there in the pale afternoon sun, arms folded on the railing, looking out at the yard. I stepped beside her. Too much? A little. Sorry. She shook her head. Not bad too much. Just, I didn't know how badly I wanted to belong somewhere until your mom hugged me like I already did. Something inside me folded open. You do, I said. Audrey turned to me, vulnerable, without a joke to shield it. Careful, I might believe you. I'm counting on it. She looked down, smiling faintly. This is moving fast. I know. Are you scared? Terrified. Do you want to slow down? I thought about the empty chair, her staying, her hand in mine at the diner, the way she fit into my family's kitchen like she'd been drawn into the blueprint before the house was built. No, I said. I want to be careful, but I don't want to pretend slow is safer if it's just fear wearing nicer shoes. Her laugh was soft. Then she stepped into me and wrapped her arms around my waist. I held her on my parents' back porch under the bare maple branches, while voices drifted from inside and the world felt unbelievably kind. Audrey lifted her face. Kiss me before your sister finds a camera. I kissed her. It was gentle at first, then lingering, the kind of kiss that didn't ask a question so much as answer one. When we parted, she stayed close, her forehead against mine. I want tonight, she whispered. My pulse jumped. Tonight? Dinner, just us, no audience, no pastry-based emotional support. A real date where you pick me up and I pretend I didn't already kiss you in front of your mother's hydrangeas. They're dormant. Not the point. I smiled. Yes, tonight. Her phone buzzed on the porch railing. She glanced at it and the warmth in her face dimmed. I didn't need to ask whose name was on the screen. I could tell. Ryan, we need to talk. You're making a mistake. Audrey stared at it for a long second. Then she turned the phone face down and looked back at me. I don't want him in the middle of this, she said. Then he isn't. He may try. I cupped her cheek, choosing her, not the argument waiting on her phone. Tonight is ours. Audrey breathed out, then nodded. Ours, she said, and kissed me again like she meant to keep it that way. By 7 that night, I had changed shirts 3 times. Not because Audrey hadn't seen every decent shirt I owned. She had. She'd once reorganized my closet while insulting my commitment to gray. But this was our first real dinner date. On purpose. I arrived at her apartment with flowers in one hand and a nervous system held together by hope and deodorant. Audrey opened the door before I knocked. She wore a black dress under a cropped cardigan, her hair pinned back on one side with a little gold clip. Simple. Soft. Devastating. I forgot the speech I'd practiced in the truck. She smiled. Those for me? I looked down at the flowers like they'd appeared by magic. Unless your neighbor wants to feel special. I'll fight her. I handed them over. You look beautiful. This time I didn't stumble over it. Audrey's smile changed. It went quiet and bright at the same time. Thank you, she said. You look very dateable. That's all I've ever wanted to be. She laughed, then stepped close and kissed me in her doorway, one hand curled around my tie. I hadn't worn a tie. She curled her hand around the front of my shirt anyway, like she decided the principle applied. Dinner was at a small Italian place downtown with candles on the tables and menus I pretended not to panic over. Audrey ordered pasta with mushrooms. I ordered chicken because I recognized the word. Halfway through, she reached across the table and wiped a spot of sauce from the corner of my mouth with her thumb. I went still. She noticed. Too much? No, I said, just new. Her thumb lingered for half a second before she pulled away. Good new? The kind of new I want to get used to. The candlelight softened her face. Me too. We talked like we always did, except now there were pauses where we just looked at each other and smiled like idiots. We talked about work, about her dream of opening her own design studio someday, about the bookshelf I'd promised to build her and still hadn't. You said you were waiting for inspiration, she reminded me. I was waiting for emotional clarity. Convenient. I have clarity now. Then I expect furniture. I raised my glass. To love and carpentry. Audrey froze. So did I. Love. The word had slipped out like it had been waiting near my teeth all night. Her eyes searched mine. I set my glass down carefully. I didn't mean to say that like a joke. Her lips parted slightly. My heart hammered, but I didn't take it back. I was done retreating from the truth just because it arrived early. I know this is fast, I said. I know last night we were technically best friends with questionable seating arrangements, but I think some part of me has loved you for a long time. I just called it loyalty because that sounded safer. Audrey's eyes shone. Then her phone buzzed on the table. Ryan's name lit the screen. For 1 second, neither of us moved. The old me would have felt a spike of anger, competition, fear. But Audrey picked up the phone, turned it off completely, and placed it in her purse. Then she looked back at me. He doesn't get a seat at this table, she said. Something in my chest unclenched. No, I said softly, he doesn't. She reached for my hand. And for the record, she said, voice trembling just enough to undo me, I love you too. I think I have for a while. I just called it friendship because I was scared if I named it, I'd lose it. I brought her hand to my mouth and kissed her knuckles. You're not losing me. Her smile wobbled. Promise? Promise. After dinner, we walked along the river because neither of us wanted the night to end. The city reflected in the dark water, gold and silver broken into pieces by the current. Audrey tucked herself under my arm, and I held her close, my coat around both of us as the wind came off the water. At the pedestrian bridge, she stopped. This is where I say something dumb, she said. I'm ready. She turned to face me. If an empty seat opens up in the future, I reserve the right to ignore it. I laughed, pulling her closer. Legally binding? Emotionally binding? Even better. Then she kissed me under the bridge lights, both hands on my face, the kind of kiss that made the cold irrelevant. Not a beginning anymore. A choice. A yes. Ryan texted a few more times over the next week. Audrey answered once kindly and firmly, telling him she wished him well but didn't want contact. Then she blocked him and came over to my apartment with takeout. Do you feel weird? I asked. She kicked off her shoes and curled into my couch like she owned half my furniture already. I feel free. Then she patted her lap. Your turn. I stared at her. I'm 6'1". Coward. I sat beside her instead and pulled her onto me, both of us laughing until she settled against my chest, and the room went quiet. Movie night did get complicated. It also got better. By Christmas, she had a stocking at my parents' house. My mother tried to act casual about it and failed so badly, Audrey hugged her for a full minute in the kitchen. Lauren took credit for everything, including gravity. By February, I finally built Audrey's bookshelf. It leaned slightly to the left. I love it, she said. It's crooked. So are we, a little. She kept it anyway. By the following spring, Audrey opened her own design studio in a sunlit room above a bakery. I helped paint the walls. She designed my company's new website and named one file Final Mason Stop, renaming this. I kept that one. A year after that night at the bar, we went back with the same friends and somehow ended up at the same table. This time, there were plenty of chairs. Audrey looked at the empty one beside me, then at my lap. Nick groaned. Absolutely not. I refused to witness the origin story again. Audrey smiled at him, then sat on my lap anyway. I wrapped one arm around her waist like it was the most natural thing in the world. Seat taken? She asked. Always. She leaned back against me, warm and laughing, her hand covering mine over her stomach. Around us, the bar was loud, crowded, alive. But I only noticed her, the woman who stayed when the chair opened, the best friend who became the love of my life because, for once, neither of us moved away. What would you have done if your best friend sat on your lap because the bar was full, an empty seat opened, and they never moved? Have you ever experienced something similar, where one small moment changed everything between you and someone you loved? Tell your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships, where you'll get shorter exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.